Hey guys, welcome to your player ratings for Arsenal 1, Brighton 1. Yeah. Yeah. Guys, it's not looking good. I'm not gonna lie to you. Before we get started, I just want to say, if you want the glass half full conversation, this might not be the place for you because you guys know that I felt as though our performances have been undercooked this season and the results have not really masked it, or the results masked it, but today we got found out. Um the funny thing is we still could have won that game and we probably should have, but again, you're relying upon players that aren't really clinical finishers and are not killers to get you over the line. I mean, Havertz should have scored. Saka should have scored in that second half. In fact, Saka should have scored in the first half. Odegaard should have scored in the first half as well. We should have been out of sight by the 20th minute. But here we are, sitting with a 1-1 and already dropping points in the title race, and we dropped them at home, which you can't drop points at home. Even if you go a man down, we still should have won that game. City would have still won that game. They still would have won that game. Brighton were not that good, but we also played way below our level again. First 20 minutes, we were good, but then once we didn't score, we dropped our level quite a bit. And we scored, and then the second half we just continued on playing pretty average, so again, if you want the sunny side up version, this probably won't be it. I do feel like it's difficult to say anything other than that was a suspect performance and that we probably deserved what we got in terms of the result. That being said, it's tough because during the Rice thing, I did feel like it was silly to kick the ball away. It was rolling, so it was still moving, but it was unnecessary. That being said, João Pedro did the exact same thing in the first half and got no yellow, so I think it's very, I think the referee did make himself the main character. I think he was very desperate to give Arsenal the yellow cards, and he wasn't really doing equally the same thing to Brighton. And so it was a tough game for us. But, I like to focus on what we could actually control. We can't control the referees. And even if the referees had not, given us that red card, or we hadn't gotten that red card, you could have just spoken about our performance and probably had a lot to pick through because, once again, our midfield is not working. And we're in a situation now, which is a situation that we kind of seem to find ourselves in last two seasons, where we've made our lives harder than it needs to be. We just need to play a balanced midfield. We need to balance the left-hand side. We don't need to overcomplicate things, but when you have a very weird midfield and a weird left-hand side, I'm not surprised that players are reaching. They're not looking like themselves. They look frustrated. They look lost. They're not playing to the best of their ability. I don't know who needs to hear this, but Rice in the 8 is not going to work this season. It's not going to work this season. It worked last season because it was better than what we were doing at the beginning, but it was always a paper over the crack. Now it's something that we can't even do it against Spurs, but it's something potentially that we need to do until Marino comes back, and that could be in 2 months, 2.5 months, so we put ourselves in this situation, and, you can't afford to drop points at home, against non-top 6 opponents in a title race against City, red card or not. We had chances to win that game, and I don't know, so it's a really tough one to swallow. But when I watch us play, and every game that I've watched so far of us play, our midfield just is not dominating games. It's not controlling matches. We're not controlling anything, and I thought Wolves got the better of our midfield. I thought we got dominated against Aston Villa. And I think today we struggled again in midfield. That being said, that doesn't mean that everybody played poorly. I think Odegaard was horrendous today after the 20th minute. I don't know if that knock that he got hurt him or whatever, but I'm just going to take it on face value. I thought he was awful. And your captain coming off when you're playing with one man down says it all. Rice killed himself, but equally before before the red card, he was non-existent like he has been in the games before. And now he's reaching and he's desperate and he's making bad tackles. Because again, you have to look at why he was on a second yellow when he got to that kicking the ball away. It's because he reached in a really poor tackle. I think because he looked frustrated. I could be reading into it and projecting, but Rice lunging into tackles, that's not him. That's not him. I would say probably the one that came out looking the best was probably Partey. I think when we went down to 10 men, he was one of the only players that was trying to pick a pass. I think for the most part, our defenders were just doing what they could. And, we didn't have much, but Partey was at least trying to pass it forward and get it up the pitch. But I just think this is a really disappointing day. I don't know how I'm supposed to spin this into a positive. So again, for people that love the glass half full and always want to hear the most positive spin on things, I can't give you a positive spin because I know that we only have so many games where we can drop points, and we're 3 games in and we had a self-inflicted wound against a team that we should be beating at home. That was supposed to be a 3-0 win, boom, bam, bow, and it wasn't. So yeah, I mean, at least I take a draw today. It's better than losing. Boy says we aren't winning anything this season. I mean, we don't look like a title winning team. And at the beginning of last season, we said the same thing, but I just feel like we look the way that we look because we made certain decisions. Rice potentially rushed back into the team. Not like he's injured, but rushed back in, a player that had a really difficult Euros, played almost every game and every minute for England, rushed back in, doesn't look like himself, playing out of position, looks frustrated, doesn't look fit enough, but you have to rush him into the team because one, you didn't get Marino in on time or quickly enough. You don't trust anybody else. You don't have anybody else that can play that position. Jesus is injured, so you can't put Kai in that position. And so you backed yourself into a corner to have to play Rice right off bat. And he's out for Spurs. What are we going to do for Spurs? I mean, if you haven't thought about it, Marino is injured. Rice can't play. You can't put Kai in midfield because Jesus is injured. So, yeah. Marino is injured, you idiot. We don't look like a title-winning team because we drew 10 men and we were in control. We weren't in control before the red. Just please shut up and give your head a wobble. How about you get the fuck out of my chat then? How about that? Bye. Okay. MM says, people are just denying that we are not good enough to win the title, control the controllables. Boy says, Winery time. That's what I would do against Spurs. I'm not going to lie. I would play Winery. That's what I would do. I would play Winery. We have to get a simple midfield in there that can actually just play midfield the way that it's supposed to be played. I think that started the majority of our issues during this game. But, listen, I wouldn't be stressed out as much if we were going for top 4. Going for top 4, you can afford to drop more points. Going for a title, City are like, well, they're out of the way, because we have to play. If we lose to Spurs or drop points to Spurs, and we also lose or drop points to City, you almost can count us out of the title race from there. So, and that's what I'm saying. It's like people don't like to hear the truth, but the truth is that, one, we did not look good before the red card. We did not look good against Villa. We did not look good against Wolves. We have not looked good. We have not played anywhere near our potential. We beat both Aston Villa and Wolves, but it papered over the cracks of a bigger conversation about what we look like. We could have actually still won today, but when you don't have shooters in difficult situations when you're under pressure, our players do not deliver, because as good as Kai and Saka played overall, I cannot unsee those two chances. I cannot unsee them. And the reason why I'm more just irritated is because we're in a title race against City. We don't have wiggle room. So Ashford saying I should be a fan of another team. How about you get out of the chat? And I already said, if you want the glass half full, you're not going to get it here. I told you guys, like, against City, we can only drop so many points. I would not be this like annoyed if we were going up against a team that allowed you more than 3 losses. So you guys can politely shove it up your ass. Like, I'm so sorry, but all this continual, like, you're being so negative, you're trying to da-da-da-da-da. Like, we just dropped points to Brighton at home. You know the formula for winning the league. You have to not lose you can't lose away from home at the Etihad or at the Anfield. You can't lose. You can draw, but you can't lose. You have to beat everybody else, the bad teams, home and away. And against your top 6 contemporaries, you have to win at home, and you still can't drop points. So that's all I'm saying is you guys are being completely disingenuous. You guys are being completely disingenuous about the situation that we're in right now. You know, it's hello. And we just haven't played well, you know, so it would be different if we had played well and we were just unlucky, but we haven't played well, you know, so you guys can shove it. Seriously. Like, don't talk, like, I don't want to hear this shit. Like, I really, really don't. Like, hello. Jordan says, I get it, Jess, but also cannot panic. Brighton are a damn good team. Let's see what other. I'm not panicking. I'm just telling you guys, I'm not panicking. I'm relaxed. I came into the season saying we were going to finish 3rd, so I'm not panicking. People that think that we're winning the league should be panicking, because we've already dropped points to Brighton and we shouldn't have dropped those points. It was self-inflicted. So I'm not panicking. You guys just don't like what I'm saying. Today was not a good day. There's no way to flip it and make it positive. There's not. City could drop points in their game later, but equally, they will most likely drop less points than we will, because they're a better team. So it's, yeah, okay. But it's just, yeah, I don't know, guys. But yeah, it's fine. We played good, and there's nothing to worry about. We have Spurs and City next, and we look just fine. Like always, it's just always like delusion with the fan base. Whenever we don't play well, nobody wants to hear that we didn't play well. They want to hear it's the referee's fault. Saka got the assist. I thought he was good in those first 20 minutes. He should have at least had 2 goals. Maybe, he should have had at least 2 goals in this game, but he got the assist. It's a twofold thing for Saka. I think you could say that he was one of our better performers, but equally when we needed him to score so that we could win this game, he didn't, you know, so, but he was probably one of our better performers. So, I mean, we drew the game. I don't know, 7 maybe. Martinelli came on and didn't do much. Just ran around. No shots, no nothing. I know we were a man down, but still. 5. Trossard didn't do much in that first half. Had some good moments and some bad moments, but mostly not good enough. I'm going to give him a 5 as well. And Havertz scored a goal, but should have scored another one when we really needed him to score. Because, again, that's our biggest issue. Not to be negative, but whenever we need a goal in a pressure situation, we don't come up with them. And Saka and Kai both had really good opportunities to win us the game, and they did not. But he did help us get ahead. So I'm going to give him a 7 as well. I think overall the games that Saka and Havertz had were probably our better performers, especially from an attacking standpoint. So let's see what you guys are saying. Let's see. Are you guys not going to give your ratings too? Faya says we should have won the game clear, even when we were 10 men down. Havertz wasted 4 very good chances. Saka should have scored as well. They definitely should have scored. But again, they're not clinical, so I'm not surprised that they have these moments because this is just who they are. Maxino says, just please go support a different team. You guys are fucking losers. Get out of my chat. I'm sorry, but after the transfer window, I'm just anybody who says go get another team, or you guys can disagree with me, but telling me to go, whatever, get out of my chat. You guys, you sound like losers. Like, we didn't play well. We did not play well, so there's no reason to pretend like we did. But 7s for Saka and Havertz, and lower scores for everyone else. Caleb says the midfield balance is completely off with these players playing out of position. Odegaard is struggling. I just don't know why we can't play a 4-2-3-1. A 4-2-3-1 would be great, just because you can get at least Rice closer to Partey to support him. This is what we're saying on the watch along. Like, Partey doesn't have the legs. Like, he doesn't have the legs, and his best qualities are on the ball. So why not get Rice closer to him so he can kind of do his dirty work for him, win the ball off of people, get it to Partey so he can pass it between the lines to Odegaard in a higher position, because you lose some of your creativity when Odegaard is deeper, and he's our only creative player besides Saka. So you have Odegaard too deep, you have Rice too high, you have Partey isolated, and the midfield just lacks any sort of balance, and I just have a hard time understanding like why we persist with this. It's just tough, it really is. But again, we played perfectly fine, nothing to worry about. Everything is just going to go perfect this season. So that's what I'm hearing. So yeah. Let's go with, I thought Odegaard was awful. If I'm honest, after those 20 minutes, everybody collectively as a team dropped off and after the first 20 minutes, which to me, that's not out of the norm. I feel like we put all of our eggs in like the score in the first 20 minutes basket. And then if we don't score, we get rattled or we drop, 20, or like we drop about 5%. And then Brighton starts coming into the game, and then we get sloppy in possession. And, Odegaard did get injured around the 20th minute, but then after that, he just couldn't get back into the game. I think if you take off your captain when you're down a man and you're trying to win a game, that's a really bad sign. That's a really, really bad sign, for his performance. So I'm used to Odegaard starting off slow in the season, but equally we don't have anybody that can come in and do what you do. So you kind of have to be playing good from the beginning. And we have such a hard beginning of the season. So, and I was saying this, that Odegaard may have gotten injured in those first 20 minutes after he, got that hard tackle. That being said, I can only take it at face value, so I don't think he played well today, because I don't know 100% if he was just injured, so I'm going to give him, it's tough. I'm going to give him, because he should have had an assist. Saka should score off of that one chance. He just whiffed it. So I'm going to give him a 5. Nobody but Raya is going to get a high mark because we didn't win the game. So yeah. Devel says, after we scored the first goal, we defo took some painkillers. He did take painkillers. But I still can't give him a high score, you guys, just because, I don't know exactly what happened. So I don't think he played well. And so I just have to be fair with that. But I've taken all of that into consideration. Jane says, home fans eating prawn sandwiches sitting on their hands. The Arsenal Perspective says, Odegaard and Haaland had the same preseason. Martin looked injured today. Tala says, even when Partey has his best season, We have some fans saying he's not good enough. They hate Israel. I wonder why. Because he's never fit, you know. And I do think, again, I think Partey was our best in midfield. And when we were going through that difficult period when we couldn't trap a ball, we couldn't get it up the pitch, he was one of the only players that was winning the ball off of Brighton players and trying to get us up the field, while everybody else just kind of kicked it out of bounds. And, you know, they had like no control over the game at all. And again, I'm saying this in comparison to like a Manchester City or a Liverpool who we've seen play with a man down and haven't looked like we do, you know, especially at home. So I'm comparing it to our contemporaries and where we should be. But Partey did look like he was trying to maintain a little bit of possession, trying to get us up the pitch. So I don't actually think Partey played poorly today. I think he was one of our better performers. So I'm going to give him a 6.5. You know, it's so hard to give higher scores than what I'm giving, you know, so because I don't think anybody really played that well, like not at anywhere near their highest ability, you know. Jagoon says, what pissed me off about this game was the time wasting on our part. Khalifa says, Arsenal fans are okay with being second to City, stinking mentality. Lonely Star says, just why are you so negative? 7 points from Villa, Brighton, and Wolves is not terrible. We still have players to come back, and we are still an elite team who can win the league. Relax. That's your opinion. I don't think we could have afforded to drop any points in these first 3 games. So that's your opinion. But I am relaxed. I don't think we have enough to win the league. So, you know, I'm just telling you guys how I felt like the game went. I don't think we played well, you know. So I think any time that you don't say that we're the best team and we're elite and we're going to win the league, people think that you're panicking. I'm not panicked. When the window shut yesterday, my like feeling about how we were going to be this season was set, you know, so nobody's panicking, you know. It's just, you guys love to gaslight people all the time, you know. Chosen One says, Jess, I really think Waneri can do a job against Spurs. Seems to be a creative player, high IQ. We need to play Waneri against Spurs. I don't think we can run another imbalanced midfield. I think that's how you see the likes of like Rice trying to run and stress himself out and get that yellow card. I think having Partey, you know, isolated in that position, that's why he's stretching and getting yellow cards. Both Rice and Partey have gotten yellow cards in 2 successive matches. They already have 2 yellows. That tells me all I need to know. They are not in a midfield, I feel like, that's conducive to them performing. So, and Partey is surviving, Rice is not, you know. So Waneri, I choose him over another imbalanced midfield. For me, I wouldn't do it again. You know, I wouldn't put Kai in midfield, another imbalanced midfield, and then put Trossard in the 9. I wouldn't do it. I would just play midfielders in midfield positions. You know, midfielders in midfield positions. Shamaria says, no, not necessarily. Look at the Liverpool Spurs game last season. The funny thing is that Liverpool actually should have won that game. And the only reason why they didn't get anything out of it is because the referee, that was actually the worst call made last season. And there were a lot of them. Liverpool didn't look anywhere near as, you know, they didn't look like us against Spurs, and Spurs are a better team they were a better team last season than Brighton. So, no, I also think we're Liverpool, not away from home. So yeah. says, Partey did not track Pedro. I'm sorry. Poor game, lacks out of possession work. Did you guys think Partey was at fault for the goal? Because it looked like it just went straight through midfield, which you could say that's Partey's position. And then Gabriel weak tackle, Saliba poor. So I think it was it was more of a group effort to concede that goal, but maybe some people only saw Partey. Eddie says Partey has slowed up considerably. Could have told you that 2 seasons ago. You know, 2 seasons ago, I said we should have moved on from him, and you guys screamed and yelled at me. Now we have to play him because we have no other options. So yeah, there you go. Drew says he was the closest guy, but I don't think he was ever catching up to that goal. Diehard Gunner says only an idiot would have blamed Partey for that goal. Kadwani says Partey was one of our better players. Actually, I think he was too. But I think he's the only player that's playing in midfield in a position that suits him. He's the only one that's playing in the position that he would naturally play in. And so the only thing that's catching him out is the fact that the spaces are big, and the one player that could save him from himself, that's Rice, is so far up the pitch playing second striker. So I don't know if I blame Partey for the goal. I think it was a collective fuck up, to be honest. It just didn't seem like an individual situation. The only person I don't blame is Raya, because he made that initial save. But, I don't know if I could just blame Partey for it, because I thought Saliba and Gabriel should have dealt with it. Jordan says, my biggest issue is that in the game is not releasing Martinelli. Why was Martinelli the guy with the most pace playing deeper than Saka and Havertz? I don't know. The way that we set up is just, it was mind-boggling to me. I don't know why people are surprised that players are not playing to their highest ability. Odegaard not being out of position, well, technically, nobody is really out of position. The problem is that you're asking people to do things that are outside of their skill set. And as soon as you ask Odegaard to play deeper, you're taking away your creativity, and you're asking players like Declan Rice to be creative. Once you're doing that, you're doing the wrong things. Odegaard is best in the pockets, in and around the box. He's our only creative player in midfield. So he's not technically out of position, but the role that you have him playing doesn't suit him, and it's not that if you had a different player on that left-hand side that was more creative than Rice, that actually was like a true left eight, probably wouldn't be as bad of a thing, because it's you would still get somebody that could operate in and around the box. But we have no creativity when Odegaard is dropping deep so often. So for me, it's not like Odegaard is out of position. Arteta's asking people to do things that don't optimize their main strengths. And again, the only person that's playing in their natural position is Partey, but he's not even being supported properly. So yeah. Let's see. But yeah, Martinelli, I don't know why, listen, Martinelli was a net zero today, because you would imagine that he would have been left up high to run around and harass people and stuff like that, but he was just not there. So I can't really blame him for that, but he equally didn't do anything. So let's see. Oh, I forgot. No, did I do? Oh no, I haven't got to the defense yet. But that was all the midfield, right? Okay, so let's do Timber. He came off, probably precautionary. You guys tell me what you think about Timber playing. What do you think about Timber's performance? I'm trying to think, because I'm thinking for the most part, I thought he was okay, but I don't think we're optimizing left back the best that we can. I just feel like a left footer on that side and stopping the nonsense inverting would help us so much. The left-hand side still lacks in balance, and the sooner we get to Calafiori, Marino, and probably Raheem Sterling on that left-hand side, the quicker we'll get to a team that's actually ready to play, actually ready to win. Because that's the most balanced group that we could possibly come up with, with the players that we have. Timber is not a bad player. He's a great player. He's still kind of getting into the groove, but you just play him on the right. Just play him on the right if you want to play him. That's why you bought Calafiori, so that he could play left back and be a left footer. We get nothing positive from any of our fullbacks inverting anymore. Other teams have clocked it. It doesn't give us an overload in midfield. It's just something that we do for the sake of it now. So Timber, I'm going to give a 6. I just thought he was okay. Hope he's not injured. Boy says Rice is an English Makalele. Makalele was never a creative. He gave the ball to creatives, which is why I don't understand why he just doesn't. I mean, that's probably what Arteta was trying to do with Marino. I think ultimately Arteta realized that the experiment with Havertz in midfield didn't work, and that the Declan Rice, Partey, Odegaard midfield has a ceiling to it, but we shouldn't be in a position where Marino was even coming in this season. Like, we should have always just replaced Xhaka like for like. And so I just feel like sometimes it's like karma just hits us so badly, you know, because now we don't have Marino and now we don't have Rice. So it's crazy. Hugo says left back inverts and pushes Rice forward, which is not ideal. Exactly. TB says don't blame the ref, blame the team. Samuel says, Jess, if we are 18-2-1 in our last 21 games, what have teams clocked? Just at least be objective, not everyday emotional. Fine. We will come back to all these conversations when you guys are trying to make it seem like I'm the one that's overreacting when we haven't won a trophy in 4 years. Like, until we start winning trophies, all of this sounds nonsense to me. Just because we're winning games doesn't necessarily mean that we're always performing good. Like, you guys, those first 2 games, every time I try to bring up anything about how we were playing and how it wasn't really optimal and like we weren't actually performing well, you guys jumped down my throat. And look at what happened today. So just because you're winning games doesn't mean that what you're doing is perfect and your performances are perfect. But listen, you guys are right. You guys are adding last season's games onto this season, which who cares? You know, we didn't win the league and we didn't win a trophy. So what are we talking about? You know, but keep jumping down my throat. It's fine. Diehard Gunner says we want our left 8 high. That is not a problem. The problem is Rice is not very good at left 8. Exactly. Johnny D says Rice was the referee's fault. Red cost us as much as Havertz and Saka's misses and hoofing the ball in the second half. City does not hoof the ball at home, 1-1 man down. Yeah, we're not winning shit. I mean, listen, I'm not the only one saying this, but it's falling on deaf ears. You cannot tell me that at home, City would have been sitting in their box defending for their lives at 1-1 at home. The level is just not there. And we're always like, well, we were a man down. We're not Brighton. Not Brighton. Actually, Brighton probably wouldn't even played as bad as we did. But we're not Everton. You know? It's just crazy, you know? But again, we'll come back to all of this stuff later. Faya says Rice should have never done that. Stop making excuses. That was very, very stupid. I think it's equal. Rice shouldn't have done it. But the referee was also desperate to give him a card, you know, and he was desperate to get him off the pitch. That was very clear. White, don't think he had a very good game. Again, I think I think some of the players that have played 3 seasons in a row, almost every single minute of every game, we're starting to see not maybe them run down, but maybe you just need to freshen things up. This is why I'm a big advocate of Timber playing on the right, because I don't think it would be a bad idea to allow Timber, if he's fit enough, to play on the right for a couple of games, because White is just like, so far he's had 3 average performances. This one was not good at all, in my opinion. I thought he was pretty poor. He was getting beat every time. And so, you know, I think sometimes you just have to shake things up. I'm going to give him like a 6 because, you know, whatever, but it wouldn't hurt us to shake things up a little bit. You know, he's not awful. He's not the worst, but I thought he was just average today, to poor. It was weird because obviously when Zinchenko is on, they only attack that side, but they really attacked our right-hand side. And I think they got the better of Ben quite a bit. Whereas the other side really was just like, fine. You know, so yeah, I think Ben 6 maybe. But I wouldn't mind shaking it up if Timber's fit, play him on the right, play Calafiore on the left. Just give us something new and fresh, you know, try to balance things out, prioritize balance, prioritize freshness, stop running the same people into the ground. Because, you know, Ben White, I don't think I know he didn't play the Euros, but I think you just have to freshen things up sometimes and give people something to think about. And yeah, Ben just looks like he might need a little bit of a sit down. Gabriel, not a good game for him either. I thought, you know, again, oh, I thought he could have done better on the goal. Really, I looked at him the most on that because I just thought he was weak in the tackle. He did good, defending the goal once we went a man down. Besides the goal, but then once we went a man down, he just hoofed it every single time he got it. And I just feel at this stage as a team, we should be able to do better than just hoofing it. But yeah, so 6 for him. And Saliba was also pretty poor on the ball. He gave away some easy passes, 6 as well. And who else was back there? Calafiori, I thought, came on and did a good job, actually. He actually looked good, and he had a couple of moments where he actually held onto the ball and created space and actually passed it to somebody. Sometimes, like, just because you're a man down doesn't mean you have to panic every time you're on the ball. So I'm going to give him a 7. And Zinchenko, I mean, we could just give him, like, he didn't really have to do anything. So could just give him, like, a 6. He didn't get burned really or anything. So, yeah, 6. What do you guys think? Kovac says Gabriel needs to be replaced by Calafiori. NSNP says Rice is to blame, guys. This happens in football. It's why we love the game. If we beat Spurs, then that'll be a really good bounce back. No, I think to be honest, I think if you can't see that the referee was terrible today, even I know it's bad when rivals are actually backing us because usually they are never objective, but anybody would be disappointed in the way that it went down. I think Rice didn't need to kick the ball away, but it just wasn't enough. Like, the referee had no temperature on the game. He was, mind you, at the beginning of last season, Manchester City had 2 yellow card challenges on us and didn't get a single player sent off, but Rice just kicks the ball away, like, and the ball is still rolling and he gets a second yellow. Like, I just think the referee was desperate for it, and he was desperate to change the temperature of the game, and he was desperate to be the main character. And so it could be 2 things can be true at the same time, that Rice didn't need to kick that ball away, especially on a yellow, but nobody else gets a second yellow for that. Nobody else, so I think it's both, but I think him being so frustrated and reaching, especially in both games, I just think he's frustrated in the position that he's playing, to be honest. I just don't think it suits him. Chosen One says, Jess, what would you suggest for the midfield situation? I'm not asking sarcastically, genuinely want to know if you have an idea of who you'd play there. I'd rather just play players, like, even if they're not as good, I'd rather play players in the positions that actually suit them. So for me, and then negative 10 ADP, I'm not blaming the refs for us dropping points. So listen, like, for understanding before you just put dumb comments in there, because nobody is saying that we drop points because of the referee. I just don't think that Rice was just to blame. So thank you. But I think that it would be okay to just play, like, Winery in there. I know that it's like we're playing Spurs, but playing both Jorginho and Partey doesn't solve anything. It doesn't balance anything. Neither one of them would be good in the 8 position. And the way that Arteta wants to play it, he's not going to modify his tactics at all to suit the players that he has. He's not going to play in a double pivot or with just a number 10. He's going to still play his left center mid high. So I'd rather Winery be in there and also play on, soft factors, like he's, from the academy and he'll be gassed to play against Spurs and maybe he'll have a little breakout game. Just having players that actually play in those positions play there would actually suit us because it would balance us out a little bit. So to me, I'd play Partey, Odegaard, and Winery and keep the front line the same, except for Sterling comes in for Trossard. Yeah, I would start Sterling first thing against Spurs. Against Spurs. Trossard didn't do enough to keep his starting position, and Martinelli shouldn't be starting. So you brought in Sterling, start him. We need fresh, we need new, we need players that are not, playing poorly, already. So it's just move on. Nuances of Fate says Jorginho would probably be better in the 8 than Rice. Even if he's better, it's still not optimal. The fact that we're even talking about Jorginho playing in the 8 just is why I've been, like, for the whole last 2 years saying we need to balance our midfield because we don't have any eights. We don't have any eights. We actually played all season with no eights last season. We played with all 10s and 6s. We got 1 8 in the window. He got injured, so now we're back down to no eights. The only solution is to play Waneri. And for people that are like, listen, it's not realistic to play a kid. I just feel like that's what I would do. It's just like when we were losing at the back end of, our first challenging season and people said that it made sense to play Rob Holding, I would have played Will Walters. I said what I said. I'd rather play somebody, a talented kid, than a player that I know is not good enough or play players out of position. That's just what I would do. Samuel says, you think we'd lost? Doesn't matter. We drop points. When you drop points in a title race, again, if we were still trying to fight for top 4, I would not be as, upset, or as critical. But also, I'm trying to figure out what positives are there, Samuel? If you can give me a positive performance, somebody that played well. Raya is the only one who played well. So again, you guys are saying it's an overreaction. You think we lost, but you can't pretend like we played well or there's anything really to be well, actually that was a positive. We're fighting for the title. So I don't know. Raya, you get a fucking 9. If he wasn't back there, we would have got smoked even worse. So he was great. So yeah, Nicholas says this is what happens when the striker position isn't addressed. A boy says I got called names for wanting Waneri to get minutes in that period. We were slapping for teams 4 and 5. I mean, nothing is any suggestion that you have other than just playing players out of position gets rubbished. But why would you continue to do the same thing over and over again if it doesn't work? If Havertz in midfield doesn't work, why would you continue to do it? If Rice in the 8 doesn't really work or, it doesn't suit his strong points, why would you continue to do it? Try something different, and there's no point in having Waneri in the team. First of all, he got rid of Emile. People are not using their brains either. You got rid of Emile and you got rid of Fabio Vieira, which to me says that you're willing to use Waneri because you don't get rid of both of those players and leave him as your next man up if Marino gets injured. You see what I'm saying? So it's by virtue of the way that you've done the transfer business, you've told me that you're ready to play Waneri. So then when I suggest that when Marino is injured and Rice also cannot play against Spurs, that we play the next natural midfielder, that's crazy. So you guys want to pull Havertz from our striker position instead? I'm the one who sounds crazy? Use your brains. It's Arteta basically said, I trust him. He trusts him because he got rid of Fabio and Emile. He basically pushed him up the depth chart. I don't see why we wouldn't. I don't understand, but again, the one thing I will say is that last season, when we started off the season poorly, the things that were said in the chat were you're overreacting. You think we should win every game. You're being too harsh. You're being negative. And when we got to the end of the season, the same games, the Fulham game that we drew at the beginning of the season, the games that we did not play well in December were the games that we brought up as the reason why we didn't win the league. So this is why I don't listen to you guys, because every time that we drop points, you guys act like it's not a big deal. And then when we get to the end of the season and we haven't won anything, we look back on the same games that you guys are doing what you're doing now and saying, oh yeah, but if we had just beat Fulham. Oh yeah, if we had just beat Fulham either time, if we had just beat West Ham, so that's why I don't listen to you guys, because you guys have subjective memories. This is the exact same thing you guys did last season when we were playing poorly at the beginning of that season. The performances were not good and we started dropping points. So yeah, that's, you know what I'm saying? That's why I don't listen to you guys. No offense, but you act like we haven't been through this before. We haven't seen this before. We haven't seen an imbalanced midfield cost us the first half of our season. We haven't seen injuries early on in the season hurt our season. We haven't seen dropping points to teams outside of the top 6 hurt our season. But listen, you guys didn't live through last season. You guys forgot it. So I don't listen to you guys. Bernard says we didn't lose because we're playing badly. Yeah, it sucks to drop points, but you can't say we played bad, ridiculous. We didn't play well. We didn't play anywhere near our standard. If you look at the way we played at the back end of last season versus the way that we played today, we've dropped. Like, this is not the level in which we played at all last season. You can't name a single player besides Raya that was probably over an 8. So, we didn't play well. We had 10 men, and even before we had 10 men, we didn't get 10 men into the second half. We played good for about 30 minutes of the first half. So again, we didn't we watched the game. Nobody can actually tell me that we played well. Nobody will say it with chest because we didn't. So I don't know why you guys are saying that. We didn't play well. And there's nothing wrong with saying it. But I think people don't want to hear real conversations or don't want to hear anything that's not positive, because then it brings to light that maybe we did make mistakes, so we didn't play well. So user says Partey needs to step up for the next game. And when did we start wasting time at home against teams like Brighton with a whole 10 minutes to go? We've done more in less time than just a few months ago. I think Partey actually did as much as this will probably, for people that obviously, because we all think that Partey doesn't have the legs. I think we all can say that he doesn't have the legs. So there are just times that he's going to get beat, right? But I think for the most part, if there was anybody in midfield who did step up or at least showed a little bit of personality, it was probably Partey. So, we have to hope that he steps up against Spurs because he will play. But he needs support in midfield. If you know that he doesn't have the legs, you need to get other players around him. You need to not isolate him. Now, your best player that wins the ball back is no longer available for Spurs, so you'll probably be open in midfield no matter what you do. But I just think leaving Partey on an island is not something that he ever did to Jorginho. Jorginho, when he plays, Rice is so much closer to him. But when Partey plays, Rice is on a whole nother planet. So, besides Partey needing to step up, Arteta needs to figure out a way not to isolate him with big spaces around him, because the likes of Basuma and Sarr and these guys are going to run right past him. They're going to dribble right past him, and you can't really blame him because he hasn't had legs for 2 years, so I can't really, blame somebody for not being physically up to the level when we've known that for 2 years. It's up to either Arsenal to replace him or for us to set him up in a system that allows him not to be as exposed. NSNP says we didn't play well, but let's just hope we grow into the season. City do occasionally drop points if we beat them, and then momentum for that will be mad. Yeah, I mean, you always hope that City drop away or drop up some points or whatever, but this is what I'm saying. Your first sentence alone saying we didn't play well. So you guys don't get mad at me for saying it if you guys all know the truth. We didn't play well. there's nothing wrong with saying it. There's nothing wrong with saying that the players did not have good performances. Not a single one of you guys can actually name, somebody besides Raya that had a really good performance. Saka and Havertz may be the closest, but they missed good opportunities for us to win the game. And at this stage, you have to look at that and be okay, you expect Havertz and Saka to be able to put those chances away, So there's nothing wrong with saying we didn't play well, There's nothing wrong with it, So yeah, Chosen One says when Neri has a lot of potential. City challenged and integrated Foden. Arsenal became challengers by integrating Saka. Play the kid. I would do that over. Here's at the bare minimum what I would say is, I don't know 100% how Winery would play in a situation like this, but I'd rather do something different than something that I know doesn't work or is going to require moving our best number 9 out of his position to cover a position that doesn't suit him, because that's essentially what you guys are saying, is that you'd rather play Havertz in midfield because that's the option that you get. This idea that we're going to play Jorginho and Partey is a fallacy. We're not going to do that. and playing 2 DMs with no legs doesn't balance us out at all. Every other option other than putting Winery in there doesn't balance us out at all. So at the very least, I'd like to see us try something different, understanding that it's a big risk. But at this stage, it's like, you know, we already took the risk by having only 1/8 in the team anyway, so yeah. Samuel says Kai chance fares, but both Saka chances he was off balance or stretching. All right. Ban says anybody who says Partey didn't play good today needs to get their eyes checked. Rice ain't doing shit in the 8. Tawana says play the fuck it, let's do it. Might as well. I'd rather see Arteta just at least provide some balance in midfield. I can't watch another player in the left 8 that doesn't suit the role. Like it's just a nonsense, and just play Calafiori at left back. It's time. Blankface says I need to go watch some Lee Gunner. Boy says Vlahovic, Gyökeres, Sesko, Jonathan David, any of those would let us move Havertz to CM. MM says we're relying on a 17-year-old for their title challenge. This poor squad building then. I mean, but again, MM, like we said this yesterday, and again, like people were saying, you're just being negative, but we're at a point like you guys are not really proving me wrong though, because it's like we're at a position now where it's either play Winery or move Havertz out of his preferred position to play him in midfield third game in, so when I was saying that the window wasn't good enough, and that we should have never got to this place where we're being offered Sterling on the final day, and that some of our, like, what we've done has not been good enough. You guys were screaming at me saying that you're just being negative. So again, like things happen and you guys are acting like it's just happening to us, when in reality, it's the consequences of not actually building a team adequately. So yeah, Jordan says it's Rice Red that cost the team. Our team as a collective did not cost us the game. I mean, yes and no. Rice didn't help us out, but we had enough chances in the first half to be far away. We could have been 2-3-0 up in the first half. We were only 1-0 up. The game would have been over. Then Rice gets the red. Then, we have more chances and we don't put it away. So I think you could blame Rice and say that the whole reason why we drew the game is because he got sent off. But to me, that kind of lets everybody else off the hook. Teams miss chances, Jess. I get that, but who cares? Like so we can't talk about it. If we don't play well and we miss chances, then we have to just pretend like it didn't happen because teams miss chances. Okay. Anton Dunn says Trossard is definitely playing up front with Sterling and Martinelli on the wing. Gotta be Sterling. You gotta go with Sterling. You gotta go with something fresh. You gotta go with somebody that might have a little bit of confidence or a little bit of something to prove. Martinelli is a net negative right now. You have to go with somebody else. I just believe you have to. Like against Spurs, no, it would be risky, but Sterling in the left wing, Winery in left center mid, and Calafiori at left back. At least you'd have balance. Jordan says, but Jess, those chances we got was after our team was defending in their half for a lot of our time. Come on, let's be reasonable. We didn't play well. We deserved what we got. And I still feel like Saka or Havertz could have finished either one of those chances. And I think we should have been at least 2 or 3 ahead in that first half. So, yeah. Chosen One says Barcelona are relying on a 17-year-old to be their superstar. Ethan is talented. Take a shot on him. But you guys aren't adding, like when you guys are saying, oh no Ethan, you guys aren't actually giving other suggestions. You guys are just saying no to that. Be a solutions person then. Say what you want, what you would do with no Rice and no Marino. What would you do? What would you do? What would you do? That's all I'm asking. It's like you guys wouldn't play Ethan. So what would you do? Because you got, like, if Jesus is not ready to start, which he's most likely not, then what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You guys are going to play Havertz in midfield? Okay. Sick. TB says, shaking my head, Lamal is a winger, Ethan is a midfielder. You need experience in that midfield. You don't get experience by sitting on the bench, though. If you can't trust Ethan to come in when we don't have anybody else to play that position, then why is he in the team? Why didn't you go out and buy another midfielder to make sure that you didn't have a 17-year-old next man up? This is the thing. It's like by your actions, you've said that you trust Winery. So, listen, if you guys want to play Havertz in midfield, because you guys still aren't giving any answers. You guys aren't giving anything but don't play Ethan. But you guys know that if you don't play Ethan, that means that Havertz is going to play in midfield, which also means that you're going to have to play somebody else up top that's probably not as good of a center forward as Havertz. So as long as you are willing to admit that you want to upheaval the rest of the team in order to not play your 17-year-old that you're supposed to be trusting, then fair enough. But I'm not saying that playing him means that you think he's Cesc, but the idea that if he's the next man up and you don't trust him to do this, then he shouldn't be in the team. You should have addressed it in the window and brought in Eze or somebody like that, because otherwise you have a player in the team that you don't trust, So you can't say hell no to Havertz in midfield, but also hell no to Ethan. That's what I'm saying. So you guys are always talking about speak positive. I'm the only one who thinks that Ethan might get in there and play well. That's a positive. So it's not that I don't think that he would be awful. I actually think he might play well. He played in there in preseason with Odegaard and Partey. He did a pretty good job. You've gotten rid of everybody else that can play that position. You don't have anybody else. So, and you would have other experienced players around him. He'd be the only 17-year-old in there. And we seem to be the only team that can't carry one academy kid in their lineup every once in a while. So TB says our bench is dead, just bare bones. Come on. I mean, but that's the thing, though. It's like you're not telling me something I don't know. Because the bench is bare bones, Ethan is the next man up. So I know that it's bare bones. So what are you saying? Come on now. What are we supposed to do? What am I meant to do? Jordan says Gabriel injured Marino and then was responsible for Villa almost beating us last week and us conceding this week. I don't want to, but see, this is like, okay, see, I haven't even gone here. This is just not Gabriel. Let's not pretend. Let's not start to say that Gabriel injured Marino, so it's his fault that Marino's not here, because that's not fair to Gabriel. It was an accident. He did make mistakes in the last two games, but what is this doing? To me, this is nothing. Yeah, he makes mistakes. What are you going to do? You're going to drop Gabriel? You guys are yelling at me about Ethan starting in a position that are you saying that you would drop Gabriel? Because to me, that's dumber than anything. So Gabriel and Saliba is the partnership. You guys are positive, right? Everything will get back on track. So Gabriel making these mistakes, of course he'll iron those out. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, NSMP says Man United brought in Mainu. We should do it with Ethan. For one game against Spurs, I don't see why our whole season would end, but I just remember when people didn't want to try anybody else. They wanted to continue on with Rob Holding and then realize that Rob Holding is a championship level defender that we were using in the run-in. Instead of trusting a kid or something like that, trusting a kid and it going well can actually help you a lot, but nothing Holding would have helped us because he was always going to be terrible. So I'd rather try something a little bit different and hope that it goes well than say that it's not going to go well and do something that we know doesn't work, but that's just me. Samuel says, so you defend Gabriel. So you're not positive. Okay, great. So you don't defend Gabriel. It's just, you don't like what I'm saying, but you're willing to, you're willing to go in on Gabriel. Okay. Great. Vaya says, Big Gabby can't be dropped, is not to be blamed. Blame our manager and Edu and Cronkies for not doing enough. And Ethan and Lewis should get playing time. That's so funny because it's not that you guys are just positive or anything. It's just I'm not blaming the right people. If I blame Gabrielle, you guys are okay. But it's not about being positive and thinking that we're a good team and we're elite. It's about as long as you blame the right people. Gabrielle did not play well today. Did not play well against Villa. I don't think he was that good against Wolves either. I don't think anybody was. But I'm not about to sit here and pretend like he hurt Marino and he's the reason, why he's not playing. Like, come on. So yeah, William says to drop 2 points this early worries me. William, shouldn't worry you because it's just 2 points and they won't matter at the end of the season because City are definitely dropping more points than we are. says the same rhetoric is happening. It's 3 games in. Yeah, we haven't learned. We haven't learned at all. Praise says, what if Ethan plays terrible? What next? What if he plays well? What next? What if he plays well? What next? What if he plays terrible? What if he plays well? What happened to glass half full, guys? All I'm saying is that we know that Havertz in midfield, even if that's what we do, doesn't work. That's all I'm saying. So I'd rather try something that is new and at least a player playing in a position that he knows how to play. He's actually a midfielder, but if he doesn't play, if he plays terrible, then he plays terrible. But what if he plays well? So Jordan says Calafiori is looking at left center back position like food right now. He sees an opening. He might just start him at left back. Let's just start there. Like we have a position for him right there that's wide open that nobody is really stepping into. That could be his position tomorrow, So I don't know if ripping up our center back partnership is more important than just playing him at left back and getting somebody stable there because our left-hand side is broken. Our center back partnership is not broken. Our left-hand side is broken. So how about play him at left back and start healing the left-hand side rather than focusing on a center back partnership that was probably one of our biggest positive last season. If we're talking about last season and how good we were, almost the biggest part of it was our center back partnership. So yeah. Faya says Big Gabby can't be dropped. Oh yeah, we already said that. So Praise says, should we drop Timber? He should either play on the right or not play. Like, I don't understand why he's playing on the left. I don't get it. It doesn't add anything. It doesn't give us anything. Jordan says, we have lost the league dropping points in December, January, and April months. According to the stats, we dropped points in the first month many times, and we almost clinched the league, but we haven't clinched the league. So you don't know actually what points have cost us. Do you see what I'm saying? So you can't say, well, the points at the beginning don't mean anything because we also drop points in other months. You can't pick and choose. We drop points all the way through the season. And so all of those cost us, We never won the league. So unless we win the league and we drop points at the beginning of the season, this doesn't matter. We haven't won the league. But yeah, listen. When we drop points, you're never going to catch me saying that we didn't play well. You're never going to catch me saying that we did. I know it's good on here to be positive for no reason and just pretend we're just fine. But again, it's like you guys haven't learned from last season that dropping these silly points add up, and then we have to be perfect in the second half of the season. And I don't think we could afford to drop those points at home. If we were away from home at Brighton, that would be different. But you have to beat these teams. Basically, you have to beat these teams home and away. And so being at home and dropping these points, it's not like the red card just happened to us. We did have a part to blame in that too. So it's not like we just got this really bad call against us. I do think the referee could have made a different decision, but it is what it is. But, these are the types of points that we couldn't afford to drop last season. So I don't know why people are acting like we can afford it now, but maybe City drop more points and we're fine, so yeah. NSNP says, Jess, do you think the international break came at a good time? I don't know. They do need to sit down and ask themselves if they really want to win the league. Because I don't think I saw a team that wanted to win the league today, because a team that wanted to win the league would have still won 10 men down or 1 man down. That's how I feel. So I do think they need to sit down and remember that like the league is already started and Man City will run you over if you're not ready. So yeah, I'm okay with the break. I'm always open to a break from this. So but yeah, that'll give at least like if Timber's injured, it'll give him a moment to get up to speed. It'll give Arteta and the coaching staff a chance to look at how we've started the season and ask themselves if this is how they want to continue. So yeah. But yeah, AJ says City are definitely not going unbeaten. Arsenal will get better. Okay. All right. This is true. City could not go unbeaten. They probably won't go unbeaten, and Arsenal will get better. Those two things happened last season, though. I mean, again, remember, guys, we're trying to win trophies here, so the margins are really fine. So, that's all I'm saying. They probably will drop points, but based on the way we're playing, if we don't fix up, we will drop more points than them. Van says Winery is better than Fabio. Why are people downing the player? He's ready age. Don't play football. They don't I don't even think they would trust him. I don't even think they would trust him outside of a Carabao Cup game. I'm so serious. Like they want him in the team as like a little trophy or something like that, but they don't want him to play. They don't actually want him to play. When I said that we needed to integrate youth, I meant it. And I don't think that we should be so like if we can't carry a 17-year-old in the team, meaning, have somebody in there that can that's learning, but we can also win at the same time, then we're not as good as we think we are. City have kids in the team here and there. So do Liverpool. Most teams do. But we're like deathly afraid to have to actually play a kid, even when we don't have a functioning midfield. So this dog is farting so bad. But yeah, I really do think that we need to consider playing Winery. But even if we don't, at the very least, our performance level as a group needs to go up quite a bit. We're nowhere near the level that we should be at. And if we had won all 3 games playing poorly, that's different. I think you win all 3 games and, you not playing at your best, you can kind of delude yourself into thinking it's fine. But when you start dropping points, it's like then you have to start looking at those performances a little closer. And that's all I'm saying. I don't think we played well today. Doesn't mean we can't get better, but I don't actually know how we get better without Arteta changing some things up. And he's like very, very, very stuck in his ways. And he also has limited options. So I'm looking forward to the break just for them to like recalibrate. I really think some of them need to look in the mirror and ask themselves if they actually want to win the league or not, including the manager. David says, excited to see Sterling play. Can he raise a level? I would start him against Spurs. That's how bad I think our left wing situation is. I would start Sterling the very next game. In fact, my entire left-hand side would be totally different. So yeah, Brian says, y'all are crazy if you think breaking up our center back partnership is a good thing to do right now. It's funny because even suggesting playing Timber over White or, playing Winery is scoffed at, but they want to break up. Probably the only thing that's been probably the one thing that we know for sure is the reason why we've been so good over the last 2 seasons. Their priority is to break up that partnership, but it's more important than making the left side balanced or, getting, Calafiori on the left back. It's more important than, giving White a challenge. It's more important than balancing the midfield. They want to break up our center back partnership. And that's how I know it's not about being positive or negative. It's about making sure that we all dislike the same players. So, hello. Praise says Odegaard was terrible today, not just by his standards of expected. He was awful today, but I do take into consideration that he may have been injured, but I think the reason why it's harder to give him the benefit of the doubt for that too is because the first 2 games he wasn't good either, Antonin says being stuck in your ways at 5 years into management is not ideal for Arteta because if he goes to Barca and tries to invert, he'll be kicked out in 2 months. I think he should ditch the inversion. I really do. I think he should ditch the inversion. I think he should. Johnny says, just now, see why everyone says Trossard should never start. He's useless, but opposite as a cameo, no brainer. I still don't think Martinelli should start, though. You guys don't listen. The whole reason why I feel like Trossard should be starting is because he's more likely to score a goal right now than Martinelli. Martinelli could barely tie his shoes right now. He's a net negative. So if Martinelli was even remotely ready or remotely decent right now, Trossard does not start. But the reason why people are asking for him to start is because even if he plays as poorly as he does in between the goals, he's more likely to score a goal than Martinelli. So Martinelli should not be starting in this team. Trossard should not be starting in this team, but people want Trossard. That's how bad Martinelli has been, that we have a player that we know shouldn't be starting. People are asking for him to start because Martinelli's not playing well. So that's why Sterling should probably start. So I think people it's like, but that's not any sort of advertisement for Martinelli. That's not helping Martinelli's case. That Trossard didn't play well today doesn't mean that Martinelli should start, because when Martinelli came on, he played like ass too. So right now we have a situation where the starter is not playing well. And we have a guy that we know has limitations to his game that we have to force into the starting position because at least he is in form and will score a goal. But it still doesn't solve our problems because he's still not the guy that we need starting. This is why I said we need a starting left wing. This is why I said we need a starting left wing, not a backup to Saka. We need a starting left wing. I'm so desperate to get somebody out there that can just be normal for the whole game that I want Sterling to start against Spurs. That's how desperate it is. So it's not about Trossard versus Martinelli, because it doesn't. Trossard playing poorly does not help Martinelli's case. It just doesn't, So Martinelli he's not doing anything. Jordan says Sterling is a starter in our team. And that in itself lets you know that, again, when we were talking about how good our attack was the other day, and I was saying that we don't have the best attack. We probably don't even have the second best attack. And it's questionable if it's even the third. People scoffed at it. But the fact that Sterling, who's a good player, probably instantly starts in our team, I think just says how the level of depth that we have and player that we have in those wide positions and as an attacking force. It's not that our players are awful, but they're not as good as people make them out to seem. But I would start Sterling against Spurs. I think we need a shot up the arm. I think we need something fresh. I think some of our players look jaded. We just need freshness. No Martinelli. Get Sterling in. Get Calafiori in. Somebody who looks like bright and ready to play, because he actually looked good today. He looked good in his cameo against Villa. And just get some freshness into the squad. That's another reason why I'd be open to Nwaneri starting, because at least when you play academy kids, you at least get hard work and the heart and the soft factors. Some of our players look like they're just and it's like, we can't have that right now. Chosen One says, Jess, we also have proof that playing a teenager from Haaland with lots of potential has worked out great for Arsenal, that players actually are main man in attack right now. Funny, the gems you can find. You can't say one moment that you want to integrate youth, but be afraid to use them at all. It would not be ideal to his first game for Arsenal to be against Spurs, but equally, it's like, what other choice do you really have? Besides playing players out of position. When playing players out of position is your only other option, it's not really an option, So for me, it's like, I don't think it would be the end of the world. I really don't. I just think we worry about the wrong things. We're focusing on getting Gabrielle out of the team and, bullshit, instead of just focus on balancing the team out, Malik says, you're talking like Brighton are mugs to claim that they don't look like they want to win the league because they shouldn't beat Brighton with a man down. Your guys' expectations of this team are incredibly low. The reason Brighton are not a bad team at all. They're a good team. But at this stage in our development, we should be able to beat them home and away. Even if they play well, we should be beating them home and away. The benchmark is City. When City go a man down, at the odd time that they go a man down, they don't lose all their possession. They still look dangerous, whatever. They still probably win the game, and we drew at home to Brighton with a man down. Like, that is the remit to win the league. Like, I'm not just pulling the expectation out of my ass. The expectation comes from the exact team that we're trying to fight against. So it's not about Brighton being mugs, but your expectations are so low. We should be beating Brighton home and away. Am I saying that it should just be easy? No, I'm not. But the expectation to win the league has never been different. Teams outside of the top 6, you have to be beating home and away. If City were down a man, they still probably would have won the game. Brighton were not that good today. We could have scored 3 goals in the first half. We could have scored 2 when we were down a man. Brighton were not that good today. We just did not play at our level, So my expectations are coming from what is expected of teams that win the league in the Premier League. It's not just, it's Brighton being not a bad team doesn't have shit to do with it. Doesn't have anything to do with it. Like, we should still be beating them home and away, but I do think your guys' standards are sometimes can be kind of low. I do think you guys have, your standards are kind of like wishy-washy at times. It's like you guys think we're an elite team, but when you have expectations of an elite team, like when I was saying that we weren't as good as you guys think we are, you guys are saying we're an elite team. We push City. We haven't lost it. We've lost 1 in 19 games. But when the expectation, I'm like, I have the expectations of an elite team on them. You guys are saying, well, it's okay. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, you can't have it both ways. If you think we're an elite team, you should expect us to beat Brighton home and away, even if we're a man down. An elite team would have beat them today. So you can't have it both ways. It's weird. Kamani says, we drop points against Fulham home and away. It's always excuses with some fans. Jordan says that referee has blood on his hands. I don't think he had a good game. DAJ says, any proper striker scores at least one of the chances we had. Lone Star says, we won't win every game. Doesn't matter. The whole point is, I know we're not going to win every single game, but when you start losing or dropping points in games that were supposed to be wins on paper, then it makes it more difficult. And then people start saying that you have to go to the Etihad and win to win the league. So this is all based on the expectations of a team that's supposed to be winning the league, not somebody that's supposed to be finishing in the top 4. So again, like, we're not going to win every single game. We're not. But we're putting more pressure on ourselves by not getting the 3 points in games in which should be bankers for us. Shamaria says, I'm just praying that we can shake this bad patch off and fix up during the international break. Yeah, I mean, we can't let one dropping points end up being multiple. And that's the issue that you have now coming up into these next couple of games, is because we're playing away from home against our biggest rivals. And then we also have to go to the Etihad against Man City. It's not out of the realm of possibility that you don't win a game in 3 now. And you know how that spurs on the negativity and the conversations about, can we win the league? So again, that's why dropping points to Brighton is detrimental, because you can easily see us not winning in 3, so that's not out of the realm of possibility. That's all I'm saying, but for fans that always pretend like we're an elite team when the expectations need to be elite, you guys always have excuses. So AMD says 3 games in at home. Shamaria says it will not be well with Chris Kavanagh. He is the one who didn't send Joe Linton off. He's just an asshole. Arsenic says, we are still the second best team in the league. Expect no better. Johnny D says, Jess, we are by far the best team in the universe that wins nothing. We are a better version of Tottenham. It would be so funny if it wouldn't be tragic. Jean says, our left-hand side has been dead for a while now. Let's be real. And we came into the season still without the left-hand side being functional. Imbalanced midfield, non-functional left-hand side. And we're surprised that our performances are not good. Our performances are not good enough. NSMP says, Jess, we aren't an elite team, but I do believe we can be one if we find consistency. Chris Frazier says, just wait for the UCL. Millen says, to be honest, the red card put Declan sideways. Out of his misery, he has been shit in all 3 games. I can't really name anybody who's besides Saka who's been, and Raya and Saka, I think probably have more than one good game. Maybe Kai against Wolves, maybe you can give him that. Maybe. But if we're honest, if you really think back to the Wolves and the Aston Villa game, I watched both of those back. We weren't terrible, but these players are not playing to the best of their ability yet. They're, when we did the player ratings for Aston Villa, you guys were saying my ratings were too low. And that when I rewatched the game, I actually think that my ratings were fair because they weren't based on the result. They were based on their performances. And the performances were not good against Aston Villa. We won the game, So I think, the performances just haven't been there yet. And I know that they can perform so much better. That's why it's frustrating. These are really good players that just aren't really, they haven't gotten to the level even near it yet. Millen says fans complain about Zinchenko's defensive capability. How good is Ben Scheidt against tricky wingers? I wouldn't mind if Timber played a couple of games on the right. It's not because Ben's not good, but I don't think his place should be set in stone. I actually think we only have 2 or 3 players that you could justify never dropping them, and Ben's not one of them. And I don't think he started off the season well. And I wouldn't mind giving Timber a run on the right and playing Calafiori on the left and just giving our fullbacks a shake-up. I think we need freshness after 2 years of kind of playing with the same group, actually 3 years playing with the same group, the likes of Odegaard and Saka and White in particular playing every game of every, sometimes you just need to freshen things up. So Ben was not good today. He was getting beat quite a bit, and I wouldn't mind him sitting for Timber for a couple of games. Jordan says Declan Rice has been very poor since the season started. Also somebody that probably didn't need to be rushed back in because, as Lone Star is saying, he has to be knackered. But again, the choices that you make have consequences. Not getting Marino in soon enough, not having another 8 in the team means that you have to get Rice in as soon as possible. He's stretching, he's frustrated, he's either, mentally drained, physically drained, or both. And now he's out for the Spurs game. So these are all consequences of actions. So yeah, I wouldn't play this either. This Odegaard, Partey, Jorginho. Shamaria says, yep. Where's the desire from all of our players? It needs to click soon if we want to stand a chance at winning the league. AJ says we fall off if Odegaard has a bad day. He really needs to shape up. Lone Star says the performance against Villa was superb. I disagree. I think the performance from Raya was superb. Apima says that was nasty refereeing. That was awful. Anton Dunn says, wow, why are we randomly insulting our own players? Brian says the midfield is going to be a big issue for the season. Partey is almost unplayable. We shouldn't be in a position where we have to play Partey. That's what I'll say. Blaze says, why are some Arsenal fans want breaking up our center back partnership? What is wrong with our center backs? I mean, no one really played well today, but it just depends on who you don't like. If you've always had something against Gabriel, then you're just hoping that Calafiori takes his spot, when in reality, it's so low on the priority list, I feel like, to break up our center back partnership. Nobody really played well today, so collectively, it's not even individual and scapegoating. I don't think you can scapegoat anybody today. I think everybody in one way or another let us down. Rice getting the red. Arteta not balancing the midfield. Odegaard just having a poor game overall. Kai Havertz and Saka not finishing their chances. Gabriel and Saliba being chuckle brothers back there. White getting beat every single time on the ball. I think everybody collectively as a team was poor. But if you don't like Gabriel, he's the reason. Because the same people that were saying, oh my God, we didn't lose the game, why are you so negative? As soon as I mentioned Calafiori, they're like, okay, well, just drop Gabriel because he was awful. I think you're okay being negative if it's about the player that you don't like. But everybody was poor today. Everyone was there were variations of bad to me today. There was okay to bad, then there was like bad to poor, then there was shit. But nobody really, except for Raya, played really well. Partey is on his own midfield. Arteta needs to figure out the midfield. When we figure out the midfield and we're not shoehorning people in and it's balanced and our left center mid is not playing second striker, I will rejoice. I will rejoice. I will be singing from the rooftops when I can watch Marino and Rice and Odegaard play together. When we have a balanced left-hand side, when Raheem Sterling and Calafiori on the left-hand side, I will rejoice because that is the team that we should be going towards. Balance, freshness, something. We need freshness in the side. Like I don't know what. Kamani says anyone that wants the best center back pairing in the league to split up is looking for attention. I agree. I just feel it's a funny thing to scapegoat Gabriel when you're sitting there saying that we played just fine and, why are you so upset? Why are you so negative? Blah, blah, blah. But you're willing to take apart one player. I just feel like you're just okay to be negative if it's about certain players. You're either positive or not. But Gabriel, he hasn't really started off the season well. But, I mean, if it was just him, it'd be easier to just be like, well, if it was just him and he was actively giving up goals, only him, it'd be a little bit different. But because Saliba's not even really playing that well. White hasn't really started that well, so it's like it's the whole team. It's not just one person. I think it's more about having the same old holes in the team, the same old bullshit, not quite being ready. Real Madrid drew to Las Palmas last week with a team miles better than us. Inter Milan, who won the Serie A, drew last week. I get that City are a beast, but we can't now act like we are in the mud. Jordan, as much as I appreciate that, Real Madrid won the Champions League and their league last season, and Inter have also won their league. So from my perspective, it's like these are like non-conversations to me. Yes, with context, a draw is not the end of the world, but we're just not a team that you can count on not to drop more points. So it's like I appreciate this, but both of these teams have won trophies recently. We haven't. So comparing us to them feels a little bit like, oh, okay, but I get that a draw is not the end of the world. But when you're fighting up against City for the league, 2 points dropped at home against Brighton could end up being the reason why we don't win it. Just like 2 points dropped ended up being the reason why we didn't win it last season. That's why I think it's just so difficult to be like, oh, well, it's just a draw. You know what I mean? Especially when we don't look that good right now. Yo-Yo says Arteta and Edu don't care about midfield. Attempting double inversion shows us this. Band of Brothers says the defense wasn't the main problem today. These people are delusional. The forwards missed easy chances. I think it's a collective thing. I still don't feel like, I don't feel like whataboutism really works because you can just point to so many things. You can point to just the way the team is set up by Arteta. You can point to the chances that were missed. Odegaard missed a sitter. Saka missed a wide. I think he really should be putting that one chance that Odegaard popped over the top. He should have finished that. We should be at least 2 or 3-0 up. You can blame Rice for the red card. You can, then we concede. You can blame several people for that. And then we don't finish our chances. It's just too much of a collective clusterfuck to scapegoat anybody. I don't know how anybody can pick anybody out in particular. That's the reason why we drew this game. Mark says, can Saka play as a number 8 if Odegaard turns out to be injured and Sterling can play in Saka's position? I mean, the fact that we're even having these conversations just shows that we have not built the squad properly. We should not be talking about taking Saka out of his preferred position to cover for a position that we should have had covered for years now. How long have we been talking about buying 8s for? No, play players that should be playing in the 8 there. Mish says, Winery is ready to start in the 8, but will Arteta start him? I got a feeling he will start Jorginho, Partey, and Odegaard midfield. Good luck with that, because then you really have to modify things because you cannot have any of them playing high. you can't have Jorginho or Partey playing too high. So he'd have to play a double pivot. And I feel like the reason, like, then that would piss me off if he went and played Jorginho and Partey in a double pivot and allowed Odegaard to play the 10. It would piss me off because he could have done that with Rice, and maybe we wouldn't be in this situation. User says it could have been 0 points, so we defended well. Shamaria says Onana is balling out right now. Damn. Who cares? Like Onana was never going to be good at like what we needed, you know. Lone Star says, let's not overreact our expectation. You expect perfection, and that doesn't happen. 1 goal conceded in 3 games. It's not about perfection. I'm not going to explain this not one more time. It's the last time I'm going to say this. I don't expect perfection, but when City requires you to be damn near perfect in order to beat them to the league, which is the requirement for Arsenal, we need to win trophies. We need to win the Premier League. That's what we're going for. Then you cannot afford to drop points like this. So it's not about expecting perfection. Like, I don't expect them to be perfect, but City requires you almost to be perfect. So again, these are the types of points that we dropped at the beginning of the season, last season, that ended up being ones that we look back on and said, wow, maybe if we hadn't drawn to Fulham and I think it was the same, like the second or third game of the season, then maybe we would have won the league. So it's not about that. But if you guys want to, this is what I'm saying about, like, we shouldn't expect to win the league if these are our expectations. Is anytime somebody says, oh, well, a draw was not good enough today, that you can't expect perfection, then you don't want to win the league. And it's not about, it's about the 2 points drop, but we're going in circles now. Who cares? Because the points aren't coming back, and we have to go on with our day, and hopefully other people drop points. But it's just not good enough. It wasn't good enough today, and nobody can convince me that it was. So yeah, make sure you guys like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. I know it's been a downer couple of days with the transfer window and now this result. I don't know how to turn it around for you guys and pretend like I think that we had a great window and that today was a good enough performance or it was fine. It's just not how I feel about things. So, I know it's a little bit of a downer. There are other people in this fan base that will spin the positive all the time, and maybe going to watch them would be better. But I just tell you guys how I see it, and if you guys don't agree, then you guys don't agree. That's what football is about. But, you guys can just look at last season and ask yourself one question. If I'm basing how I feel about today based on last season, could you blame me? Could you actually blame me? Would I just be being negative or just going based on experiences? Because it always comes from experiences from me. I've experienced us drawing these types of games and not winning, the league. So it's not about being negative for negative sake. I expected us to beat Brighton today by 3-0 at home. That's what I expected. So yeah, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.